my pleasure to introduce to you the man of the hour, Tony.
Hello and welcome to Gates the At. I am Daraj, your host, with the driver of this Kia Rio. Why not? Or would you like to be I not?
I am why not.
I am why not. All right. Today, we are on the road from Los Angeles, California, to Phoenix for a baseball game, with a moderate stop at La Joshua Tree Desert and Cactus Inn. And so today we're going to talk about a few different things.
What are we going to talk about?
You don't even know, which is great because you always seem to spring things on me. First topic of the day, and I'll keep it baseball related unless you want to go off topic. Like, when you spell gray, is it Gray or Grey? And you better spell it right, because what kind of crazy person are you if you don't?
That's an E, Bob.
Okay, so you are crazy. So first question. We've had many conversations before off the record of At the Gates regarding improving baseball. Okay? Hopefully I didn't push the button. Nope, it's good. With regards to improving baseball, what are reasonable things that you have heard that you think could help actually improve the game, speed up the game, make it more entertaining or enjoyable to youth to get more into the game, that kind of thing? What have you heard? And what do you think will work and what do you think will not work?
One thing that I can think of that wouldn't work, but I would like to see work, is no mid-inning warm-ups. Basically just go right into the next inning. Pitchers don't really need it that much. I know that it's basically for advertising, so that's never going to happen. But soccer seems to still get a bunch of people watching it, especially.
Yeah, how does that work? Because soccer goes 45 minutes, basically ad-free.
Yep.
But they have a ton of ads, obviously, like on the field with the video boards and stuff.
And they even do ads within the game, so they'll kind of move it to the corner or do picture-in-picture somehow, or even just have some of the guys read it while it's being played.
So is there a way that you can do that in baseball?
Yeah, I mean, they already have the green screen behind home plate that throws advertising on TV. Why not do something like that?
What's to stop them from making the field a giant green screen as it is?
The infield dirt is not green.
So that just means you could have two different ads.
You could get creative with that. How about you as the Photoshop guy? How would you do that?
Easy. You could have the infield be one ad and the outfield be another ad, or you could have multiple ads filling each section.
That wouldn't work. Oakland A's, they have green on their uniforms.
Well, you can dial the screen to specific color wavelengths.
What if a player dives in the dirt or the grass? Suddenly they become invisible.
That's a good point. However...
Yeah, I just blew your mind.
No, you didn't blow my mind. I'm just trying to think of a good way to work that, because I know you can dial it to certain wavelengths, but obviously you get into a range of greens where it becomes problematic. And I'm trying to think, okay, well, the field, the Oakland color scheme is like a forest green, right? Like a darker green, whereas the field is more of a yellow green, right? Because grass is not quite that dark. It's fairly bright and yellow. Quick side note, did you know that when you bump saturation in an image, you're actually bumping the yellow and not the green to make your grass? When people try to make the grass more punchy and green, it's usually saturating the yellow and not the green.
Wow.
So anyway, because the grass has more of a yellow hue to it, I'm sure you could dial it that way.
H-U-E, not H-U-G-H.
Yes. Hue is in the color shift, not the Hugh Hefner. So you could dial it to that side of the spectrum. But I wonder if, I don't know exactly how wide that range is to know that if you could totally dial out the green jerseys.
It'd be tough, though, just with the diving in the dirt and the grass, because you can't do that.
Right. It would be problematic, especially with the ball in general. Like if you have an ad, well, most ads would probably use some form of white or cream or whatever to have letters and whatever graphics. And so you would easily lose the ball on the field.
The NHL just allowed teams, I think this coming year or maybe the next year, to have advertising in the corners of the ice, on the ice itself.
Corners where?
So basically behind the goal line.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Is there a certain size restriction?
I think that there is. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Like, can it fill that whole... the corner to where the trapezoid line is?
No, I think it's like a 6x2 or something like that. So
so a square kind of thing. Interesting. Okay. But that's one way you could do that, is advertising on the field. They already do a ton of in-game advertising as it is.
But then again, who gets that advertising? Because it also is, if it was on the field where you could see it, the Twins or whoever would get a cut of that because people at the stadium would get that. And then Fox Sports North would be arguing that, no, since we're showing it and more people are watching it on TV, we should get more of a cut. So
right.
You'd be arguing between the two.
So what if you did it like, you still, similar to hockey, how it has it in the corners, you could put ads in the foul lines outside the playing area, just like they do in soccer.
You could, but if...
And it could be real or virtual at that point.
Yeah.
And obviously, I personally don't want that because to me it clutters the field, but...
If it's... And the thing is, if it's actually on the grass, all of a sudden, if someone dives, you screwed up the ad and it can't be read. So if you actually do it in real life...
That's true. Do you get the Kent Herbeck when they were doing the celebrity game at Target Field and he tries to slide and takes out a gigantic leg's worth of dirt, of like 4 inches deep gash into the field. So what other things have you heard maybe suggested that you think could work or not work, and why not?
I think a pitch clock. I mean, that's really basic.
That goes hand in hand with the batter not leaving the batter's box, I would say.
Yeah, I think you have to have not just a pitch clock, but have it on both ends where batters, once they're come up to bat, they're in the box the entire time. They can't...
Or like you have 1 foot in the whole time.
Not even that, because 1 foot in, you can still take a timeout. I think it should just be at any...
Right, but then once you tie it in with like a pitch clock and stuff, then at least, that you can... The batter can initiate that, hey, I'm not ready, I'm going to use a little bit of the clock, but then still step in when he's ready.
Right, almost like chess.
Right. So then, we talked about the other day how, like, there's players that will, like, walk all the way out of the circle and adjust their gloves and do all this extra kind of stuff. I think that to me, at least having 1 foot in and a pitch clock would be a good suggestion.
Agreed.
Anything else?
I would say maybe put some restrictions on equipment itself. Batting gloves, they can't be adjusted. Elbow pads, I don't know. It only leaves people to take pitches or to stay in. And if there's less protection,
like you're saying, just the less protection so that they're not being more bold and standing, crowding the plate more and taking pitches.
Yeah, the less pitches that they take, the quicker the game goes.
Sure. That also leads me into a past discussion that we had regarding the padding and stuff like that. having to every single player now wears it, right? Almost. And so they get on base, and now you got to take it off, and you're at first or second. You're at second base, and you got to run it all the way in, have a bad boy come out and get it.
It should almost be permanently attached, where you even have it in the field too. So whatever you put on your
Interesting.
body, you have it the entire game.
That's really interesting. My suggestion was originally that you can have the padding, but whenever you're on base, it has to stay on.
That'd be good.
But taking it to that next level and saying, oh, you have to wear it the whole time, that's an interesting philosophy.
Yeah, because if it messes up with your fielding, all of a sudden you have to make a choice. Do I even wear it at all?
Yeah, but you have to go in and out of the dugout in between
Is that a post
defense
Malone?
and offense. Yes. That's a post Malone on a post bit.
Beer bongs and Bentleys.
So even if you can go into the dugout between innings, you say keep it on the whole time.
Yeah. Why not?
But catchers don't have to. So you're saying that a catcher has to have that equipment on the whole time?
No, because catchers historically have been able to take that off. But historically,
So why? So what's the difference between a catcher and a fielder?
because other fielders historically have not had to use those pads, they've only...
Yeah, but we're setting new precedents, so it's not history anymore.
Right, but then why even care about the history?
Because we can. And I'm being difficult because I can.
Well, I get that. But I'm just saying, just might as well draw the line. It can be a new history.
It's a heck of a line in the sand. You're climbing that mountain over there while you're doing it.
That's really good audio. That mountain over there.
Yep.
That mountain is to our left.
Yep. And it's tall.
But actually goes down too.
It goes down. We're in the down part.
Yeah.
Okay. What other things have you heard?
I don't know. I kind of like the idea of, at some point, just make it a tie. After, just kind of like Japanese baseball, after a couple extra innings, make it a tie. If you want to really
But then you get into hockey world.
So?
Well, hockey's already struggled with weird overtime rules and ties and scoring for wins and losses and ties and all that crap.
Hockey also has been bogged down by the inability to stick to one thing.
Does soccer have that problem?
No.
What's their situation?
They go to their bonus time, they get some overtime, like a 5-minute overtime. And
Yeah, but when they're tied at the end of even bonus time,
it's a tie.
it's just a tie because they don't do. It's not like you get points for wins and losses.
So win is 3 points, tie is 1 point, loss is 0 points.
Oh, gotcha. Seems simple enough. You don't get full points for like hockey. It's like, oh, hey, we'll award everybody that gets the same points, and then because you win, you get more points, kind of thing.
No, that's silly.
That's silly, he says. I'm trying to think while you're talking if I heard anything other than what we've already talked about of proposed changes to make the game go faster. Do you think that the pitch clock in between innings, the 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and the mound visit limitation, the number of mound visits restriction there, do you think that's helping?
Mound visit, yes, because now pitching coaches have to be strategic with it. And
More strategic.
yes. But the 2.5 minutes in between, no, because that's basically what TV timeouts were anyways, and they followed that schedule. So it makes it more firm and a line in the sand, but I don't think that was ever really in jeopardy for the few years running up to that.
Okay. That's interesting. I'll go with that. I agree. Yep. I don't know. Sure. So, is there anything from other sports that you might be able to think you can implement that might help speed up the game, or speed up the game, but then we'll get into interestingness and entertainment in a second.
Well, I mean, speed up the game. Does extra innings help? Like count, I mean?
Yes.
So it ties...
Because like last night at Dodger Stadium, we went to 12 innings.
Yep. So it ties in with entertainment and speed. Hockey has the shootout. Why not have a home run derby if you're still tied after?
Okay, so then how do you explain that to traditionalists, air quotes here, that say, but that's historically not how it was done. Now you're just changing for change's sake, and entertainment is taking precedence over the history and quality of the game.
Oh, I'd hate it, but I'm just saying it would be basically baseball's equivalent to what hockey does, and I don't even like hockey's version of that. I think it oversimplifies the game once it gets into overtime and rewards teams for...
It's almost like the all-star game. You're all of a sudden you're making a regular season game into an all-star game to determine the outcome of the game,
and for no other reason than to either shorten it up or tie up in hockey the feeling of, I don't know, no closure, because a lot of people complain, well, it's a tie, why did I even go? But you still got to see a full game.
Sure. So I had a thought and I lost it. What about like you know how when we played softball, right? There's no they start with a 1-1 count or whatever. In some leagues, right? I don't think ours did, but in some leagues they start with a 1-1 count. So what if you implemented some kind of... Because like when Joe Mauer gets up to bat, the dude takes 6 pitches every single at bat and rarely ever swings before it gets to a 3-1 count, like or you know, something where it's in the batter's favor. Is there anything you could implement that way?
People already complain about how many strikeouts there are, and the trade-off has been that there's more home runs because people are just swinging more. But if you shortened up the pitch count to basically 3 balls, 2 strikes, that would mean a lot more strikeouts, and I don't think people would be very happy about that.
They complain... Okay, what part of strikeouts do they complain about?
That there's just way too many of them.
There's not enough action because everybody's striking out because they're trying to hit home runs more now.
Yeah, not enough action, and a lot of people's favorite players, well, because when people talk about Aaron Judge, they're like, yeah, he's a great home run hitter, but look at the amount of times that he struck out this year compared to DiMaggio or something like that. And yes, the game has changed, so don't compare those two, but to hear baseball people complain about power hitters striking out and yet fawning over their power numbers is kind of a catch-22.
A little hypocritical, I'd say.
A bit. But then again, baseball has always kind of been like that because we cheered on the steroid guys and then shamed them once we couldn't deny it anymore that they were on steroids.
Shame on you.
For shame.
What if you just took away a ball? I mean, now you got guys on base. It's just like the proposal of starting with guy on second base.
And that's, again, baseball is kind of one of those deals where damned if you do, damned if you don't. All of a sudden, the more guys on base, the more offense, which people want to see offense, but the more offense means longer games.
Okay. What if you... So, we'll get back to that in a second. I want to go back to starting with the guy on second base. How do you feel about that?
Terrible.
And why?
Stats-wise, baseball, for better or worse, will always be tied to statistics. And when you put a guy on second, how do you score that right away? And how do you punish a pitcher for potentially giving up 2 flyouts, but a run and a loss.
Well, couldn't you just say that obviously it's not a hit? Almost like it's like this, not a pinch hitter or pinch runner, but
which runner do you put out there then?
It could any bench guy. We'll go with that route. Like they can't be in your starting 9. It's got to be a bench guy.
Right, but statistically, even if he scores, you then have to put that on the scorecard somewhere.
Well, it's not attributed to the pitcher.
Right, but then to that runner, where do you put him in the lineup card? Where do you put him?
Just 10.
But you don't have 10.
I know. You're asking a question and I'm giving you a number.
Right.
He started. If he's already not batting, it doesn't matter where he is in the lineup card, though.
Yeah, it does, because
why?
Okay, all of a sudden, what do you do the next time? Let's say no one scores in the 10th. Do you do the same thing in the 11th?
Yep.
Who do you put out there?
Anybody. It's the same rule.
Guy?
Yep.
But what if all of a sudden one of your guys gets injured? Can you put that guy in? That was
the injured guy?
No, the injured guy. Can you replace him with a guy that has already run?
Yes, because technically, okay. What I'm saying. Right. We're getting there. So what I'm thinking is, because in my head the way it works out is he's just another guy on your bench. Right? You can't have somebody in your starting 9 be this magical guy who starts on second base for reasons, because what if he ends up at bat? You know, like you can't do that, right? So it's got to be a 10 guy, and you could put him in the lineup card in between the 4 and 5, but he's not ever going to bat unless he gets subbed into the game, right? So you just put him at 10, and they're always at 10, 11, 12, whatever numbers there are on your bench, depending on how many pitchers you're carrying and whatever. That's another question, right? And then sorry, what were we're going back to? How do you score it, and what's the other question?
So the other question that I had was, someone has to get the loss. Who do you give the loss to?
The last pitcher.
So like I said, you could have a pitcher who gives up 2 flyouts, the guy tags up, and he has done everything. He literally worked a perfect through 2 outs, but gave up a walk-off flyout.
Yeah, but he's the last guy that pitched.
Right.
Historically, that's the way the scoring works. So you just automatically give it to him.
And that's the way the scoring works, but that's based on someone actually giving up a run that was earned and inherited to them, whereas that run is not inherited to anyone because it's not belonging to.
Right, but just going from a pure I'm just speculating standpoint, if you're going based off of historical recording,
is that fair to any of those pitchers?
Right, that's the question.
I don't think so, because they could have literally given up just 2 pitches, 2 perfect flyouts, and lost the game. That's insane.
Okay. So then the other question becomes, what happens then when you if you need to sub that guy in? So I'm thinking you put him in the 10 spot, and he's not technically in the batting order. So then once he's subbed in, now he's not eligible to become a runner anymore. But he can bat because obviously he's been subbed in. So now somebody else has to be your runner.
Well, I was just wondering, could you double switch technically? Because let's say
sub out somebody from the field, but then make them the runner.
Yes, because I was thinking, if I'm the Twins and I have Byron Buxton in the bottom of the 10th, but he was playing, why not do a double switch, have him replaced with a bench guy, throwing Robbie Grossman into center field to play center field, but you put Byron on second because he's technically out of the game now. Could coaches do that, and would that be fair? Because that's
I would think so.
That's manipulating.
But then again, you'd have to say, well, traditional rules say once you're subbed out, you're out.
Right. And if you do that,
but okay, so that adds. I would say do it that way because stick with the once you're out, you're out.
Do you expand the roster to 26 and make the 26th man
like a designated
runner only?
Runner. Yeah, you can't play that game where you're just only a designated runner.
Right.
I could go with that. I would say stick with the once you're out because of the fact that then it requires more strategy from the managerial standpoint to, okay, well, if I'm going to do that, similar to in the National League how they want to try to move pitchers around, but also they need to manage their roster so that they're not using all of their pitchers so fast and trying to one-up on matchups like Gardenhire used to do with the Twins and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Would that make sense, though? Just to once you're out, you're out?
Yeah, but actually what I was thinking is if you want to make it just purely entertainment, have the relief pitchers, have them be the runners.
Oh, well, we'll get to that in a minute. I think we're going to have to take a bit of a TV timeout, but that leads me into our next topic regarding pitchers. We'll see you back in a few minutes. Woo. And we're back for part 2 of Gates the At, led by Jared and driven by Tony. So, where we left off...
No, it's not.
All right, fine.
Why not? What are you?
Durage. So where we left off was
pitching,
trying to figure out ways to speed up the game reasonably, and eventually other ways to make it more entertaining, to bring youth into the game and whatever. And we stopped at managing the thought or the suggestion that somebody said about, hey, you could start with a runner on second base. And their idea was to do it in extra innings. And we said,
screw that.
Okay. Well, you said that. So anyway, that brings us to the pitching staff. How can you manage the pitching staff to improve the game?
Make it a hard limit. Don't just put 25 players. Limit them to a specific number of pitchers. And quite honestly, bring it back down to 10, maybe even 8. Because as soon as you do that, you know that you're going to have 5 starters. You only have 3 to 5 flex guys that can only go so long. So if you have specialty guys, that kind of eliminates them. It's almost like they become the fighters of the NHL, where their days are numbered.
What do you got against specialty guys?
When they come in for one batter, that eats up probably about 10 minutes of total time for that delays the game. And if MLB is really serious about shortening the game because they think it's the length of game that is driving people away, then that's where you need to start.
Not to mention salary considerations.
Very true.
So you're saying the limit is on starting pitchers plus 2 or 3 relievers?
Yep.
Where did you come up with that number?
Out of my butt.
Okay. No real thought-driven process behind that. Just pulled numbers out of the air.
I would, yeah, like I said, maybe 3 to 5 relievers. That way, if you really want to, you can have one of those guys be your closer. If you had it at the low end of 3 relievers, then that means that you have a righty and a lefty. Those would probably be more like starters that have transitioned into the bullpen, because if they need to come in and work extra innings, if it's an 18-inning game, all of a sudden you need that guy to throw for at least 6 to 7 innings, and then the other guy can come in.
So what happened? I mean, you can't anticipate when you have a 16-inning game.
Correct.
So what do you do then? Because you could literally blow through your entire bullpen.
You could, and that would be where managing it eliminates. I think it would help guys like Bert Blyleven who complain about pitch count.
He sure complains.
All of a sudden that pitch count means a lot less, and it's more about pitch quality and length of the game. You could see guys being left in there that are struggling more because they just don't want to burn through their bullpen because maybe it's early in a series, or maybe, like you said, maybe it's in the 15th inning and that's their last guy and he just gave up 7 runs, but they're kind of throwing in the towel and just need him to finish.
So you then take a bullpen pitcher who normally throws an inning or 2 and you extend him to 4 or 5 innings like a starter.
Yep.
Now you've shortened your bench. What do you do?
Well, not only did you shorten your bench, but you probably shortened the game because those super long extra inning games won't happen because relievers probably will mess up quicker than starters.
Which I was going to say I agree with this to an extent because of the fact that when you get so many fresh arms in there, that obviously extends the game, and that's sort of the idea with the current philosophy. But also, who wants to go that many extra innings, right? Like you put in your best guy and you say go for it and just keep going until you make a mistake, and then they can. I mean, sure, it goes on their stats, but they don't feel nearly as bad because it's like you just go.
And also financially, like if I'm an owner and even a manager, is winning just one game worth playing 21 innings over and potentially burning out an arm or 2?
Considering how many game 163 the Twins have played, though?
Yes, but I don't know. Like, we probably wouldn't have actually had game 163s because some of those outcomes would have been different.
Right. You're in essence you're trading that longer game experience for potentially a faster game, and just because of the fact that, like you said, the reliever is more likely to make a mistake sooner, and so you could pay that reliever specifically more money because there's a little bit more pressure there now that the game is on the line.
And what you could do is see more position players pitching, which would be fun. A lot of people like that, as well as...
I love that idea.
You can start to maybe incorporate kind of like what we've seen with Ohtani and some of these other guys that just got drafted. You might actually start seeing more guys that play that can pitch and hit.
Well, they do it all the way up until they probably get to AAA in most cases, right?
Not that far.
Not AAA, sorry. Minor leagues, I should have said.
Sometimes through college, but even then, that's getting more segmented.
So then, before I change the sort of direction of this, do you have any other suggestions on that?
Don't do drugs.
Okay. So then what about, now that we figured out the pitching solution? I agree. I think that I would take it so much farther and say I think pitchers should bat in both leagues. I understand the desire to have the DH and everything. It creates that more offense, more excitement, whatever. But you're talking about sort of doing away quite a bit with specialization and eliminating a little bit of offense because it extends the game. However, by having pitchers, you're also resolving that to some degree because now it's not a guaranteed out, but now, as far as I'm concerned, I think pitchers should bat, and I think fielders should be able to pitch, just like you said.
Ooh, let's go old school, like gym volleyball rules where everyone just rotates after each inning.
Oh, no, wait a second. We're not in the theoretical yet. This is just reasonable solutions.
But tell me that it's totally unreasonable.
I'm not saying it's not, but we've had. Well, I guess I should specify, but either way, we'll just go into the theoretical and include that as well.
As crazy
so
as
rotating. Shut up. We're not in the theoretical yet for that end of theoretical. Yes, we're not there yet. So rotating all 9 positions. Okay. Do you literally rotate all 9 positions, or do you rotate, say, infielders or outfielders, or like? Sorry, I don't have any other suggestions. You just literally rotate.
Straight up 9.
Okay. I could go with that. Then you're not burning out a pitcher every game. Basically, everybody could pitch.
Plus, the other manager doesn't know what you're going to do for your schedule. All you have to do is make sure that everyone plays a different position.
You could have a 9-day starter rotation.
Yep. And
potentially 25-day if you literally play everybody every single.
Right. And also, like, you don't know who's going to come in for inning number 2. That would be really intense.
Oh, so it's not like a legitimate clockwise rotation.
Like 1 to 2, 2 to 3. It could be just as long as everyone hits. It could be like 1, 4, 3, 5, 7, 9, 8. 2.
Okay, do you give those guys warm-up pitches in between them? Because now you're going back to extending the game a little bit. Or is there like an off-the-field position where you're allowed to go off the field for an inning to go warm up and then come back into the game so that you're ready, but you don't need the warm-up pitches between innings?
No, but I mean, so this is totally theoretical. And if they wanted to be practical, they're still going to keep the advertising in between the innings. So that's when they come in and throw their warm-ups.
Is that enough for somebody to be pitching? Because they get probably, 10 pitches?
Doesn't matter. That's kind of what makes it interesting. You'd see a very...
Well, right, I get that, and I'm on board with that. From a medical standpoint, though, is that enough to prevent somebody from just completely obliterating their arm?
If they try to go balls to the wall, probably not. But that's where you also would have to be smart. So you're going to see some guys that come in starting to pitch at 80 and then crank it all the way up to 100 by the time that they're feeling good. That
could be ridiculous. Just think of like Verlander going in.
Yep. Think of Verlander playing center field.
Now, that would add a really interesting dynamic because of the fact that, right now pitchers are so protected from, don't run too hard to first base if you get a hit, and if you get, we're going to they're so protected that now all of a sudden you got a pitcher who's trying to cover ground on a liner that Buxton would easily catch right now, but you're expecting a guy like Verlander to go get it.
Yep.
Interesting. That would be but see then, okay, that goes back to now you got a guy who with less mobility, right? And I'm not saying it's a bad idea, just saying that you got a guy with less mobility. Now you're driving offense a little bit more potentially. Like you would think that there would be an increase in offense and therefore an extension of game time.
It changes up the dynamic of the game because a lot of those guys will not be in the game. You won't see super specialized pitchers that are really good at what they do, like Clayton Kershaw. He would not be.
But people love Clayton Kershaw. You're saying get rid of that guy?
No, but I'm just saying if this league was in existence, it would shift people because all of a sudden the youth leagues would be basically creating a player that is good at everything. So that eliminates your super bulky guys that are home run hitters only. So you wouldn't have your Adam Dunns, but you also wouldn't have your Clayton Kershaws. So you wouldn't have both ends of the extreme of hardcore pitching and hardcore...
What do you got against fat guys in the field?
Nothing, because fat guys can pitch. David Wells.
Yeah, but you're getting rid of fat guys because now he's not a well-rounded. Well, he's well-rounded.
Kirby Puckett was fat and he could play center field.
That's true. But he was a diamond in the rough. He was a god amongst men. Just admit
Only
it.
amongst men, because with women...
Oh, that's right. I'll take that statement back. I retract my previous statement.
R.I.P. Kirby.
Let's see. So we've covered that. I had a topic after that, and I can't remember what it is.
Robots?
That's coming up.
Okay.
So any of these could potentially increase the entertainment factor. Which ones of them do you think helps out, or are there new ideas to help get youth into the game? Because obviously offense is exciting, right? Defense can be exciting, but it's fewer and farther between than offense is. But we're also trying to get people into the game and not destroy a game with so much offense that now nobody wants to play defense anymore.
I don't know that there's an easy solution.
Hey, the sign says slow down. You're going 61 in a 60.
It's intense.
I feel like I'm going warp speed right now. An hour and 50, and you're still going 61.
That's my bad. I hope the police aren't listening to this podcast.
So, what entertainment and attractiveness to get more kids into the game?
I don't know, because I think every sport suffers that. It just ebbs and flows, and I think baseball should just... They have enough excitement there. They just have to package it properly. That's a very vanilla and generic and very wide blanket to cast, but...
It obviously has to be a well-rounded approach.
Yes.
As in, like, you've got to get your players out into youth program communities more and more involved.
Market your players better. Everyone knows maybe 3 players. They're probably like Judge, Trout, and Stanton right now. But not a lot of people know. Probably there's some people that don't even know other team names. A lot of people might not know the Minnesota Twins. They might not know them.
Well, I was thinking just at the Dodger game last night. Now, we were sitting relatively close to the Diamondbacks dugout. I knew 3 players on their roster.
Yep. And that's poor on them. And I think with social media being there, that's very youth-oriented, and we know that. But baseball historically is for old white men, and that's very much the opposite of what social media is. And I just think that there's something there. There's
definitely an opportunity for revolution in the game right
especially now, because a lot of the players are Latino. So being able to connect to that market, I know that that's basically saying non-traditional Americans, because it's still majority of the population is white, but there's a huge market there. There's a huge that I think that would really appeal to a lot of younger people, even white people, because a lot of those younger people are more even liberal, and I think just more accepting of changes in kind of historical systems. And if baseball could show that it's kind of cool in that way without losing exactly what baseball is, aka not just putting a guy on second base because it makes it quicker, I think that would be a really good thing of merging your history with kind of appeasing to that newer generation.
That was a heck of a rant.
Yeah.
But
Del Taco.
We passed a few Del Tacos already, by the way. So when you say market your players better, though, from we're from Minnesota, and should it really be on the Diamondbacks to market their Arizona team and players to guys from Minnesota?
It shouldn't be on the Diamondbacks, but Major League Baseball in general has a lot of ability to plug itself, and
They do ride the wagon of those big name players quite often, though.
they do, and they also market it that way through other organizations like ESPN. There's enough pull, there's enough money that flows between them that if MLB came up with a plan of attack to showcase other teams, other players, they could do that.
I'd be okay with that. Instead of having blackout rules for all these different games and specific
just stream games.
game of the week or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Baseball is one of the only sports that is almost permanent. Well, baseball and hockey, they are permanently behind paywalls. You have to have
That's true.
cable in order to watch it.
That's super annoying, by the way.
And the youth don't. They're cord cutting.
All you hear about is older people who used to say, "Oh, I used to be able to see this many games a season on public, sort of not public access TV, but you know,
local channel.
Yeah, over the air channels," and they're upset that now you've got to pay for FSN basically for almost every team just to, in some cable package, just to be able to watch your team, and you rarely get that Saturday afternoon game anymore.
Yep.
I could get down with like a game of the week stream or something like that.
Or even if you buy the MLB app, allow people to watch their home team. You're spending that much money, why can't you watch your game?
You'd think so, right? I wonder, what if you're in like Afghanistan? Do you still get, and your team is the Twins, do you still get blocked out of the Twins game?
Nope. You can watch.
But I've heard of people saying that they're not in Minnesota and they still get blocked out.
It might be like some type of billing address then that's doing that.
Oh, interesting. Are we still driving for a while?
7 minutes.
Okay. So wait till we're like stopped for a while?
Yep.
Okay. So that's a good stopping point then. After the break, we'll get into some pretty interesting theoretical improvements to the game.
And probably talk Joshua Tree.
That will happen as well. We'll
Maybe
see
play
you.
some baseball in Joshua Tree.
I don't have my glove.
I have 2 gloves, and I can bring one of my 20 balls.
Sounds good. So, that being said, we'll see you on the flip side. And we're back from a nice long 3-hour journey through the national park that is called the Joshua Tree. Tony, what did you think of the Joshua Trees?
It's nothing like U2's album.
How did it live up to your standards?
I thought that it would be laid out better.
What do you mean better?
By, I don't know, just, I don't know what I was expecting. It's not that it met or didn't meet it, it just was different than what I expected.
Okay.
Yes.
Any more about that? Like what?
I thought that there would be more people. I thought it was...
That was, yeah, noticeable.
I thought it was more, like, contained to, like, a certain area with, like, you kind of went to one area and then, like, ventured off from there. But it's much, much larger than...
558,000 square miles. No, yeah. Was it miles? Acres.
Yeah.
Not miles.
Miles would be insane.
That would be very insane. We traveled
500 by 1,000.
diagonally across the park, and it seemed like there was one section of road where we were going downhill for like 45 minutes.
Correct.
It was very spread out.
Correct.
But then again, it's a desert in the middle of nowhere. So, do you really think that there would have been that many people there?
Yes, because it seemed very popular in...
Because of you two.
No. But maybe.
Whatever.
Maybe.
Totally all about the U2. That's the only reason why people go to Joshua Tree, right?
Correct. And that's probably their only good album. Don't at me.
Hot take?
I don't know that that's really a hot take.
Cold take?
Just sane take.
Well, maybe. So, 10 out of 10 would recommend again?
7 out of 10 would recommend again.
And what suggestions do you have for people who do try to visit?
Maybe not when it's 100.
It fluctuated from 93 to 101 depending on where we were.
Yes.
It's 100. It says 109 on the dash right now of the car.
Wow.
That might be a personal best for me.
I think that's my new high.
Congratulations. Handshakes. Well done,
Maybe
sir.
For homers.
Yeah. So other suggestions?
It would be interesting to camp. Bring an
Not today.
Yeah, bring an RV and do maybe like a nice, have the ability to take more time.
That's always a struggle for me, especially on these road trips, because it feels like it goes so fast. And especially for something as massive as Joshua Tree, more time is always better.
Agreed.
Do you have any other input on that topic? Or should I just continue to talk while you take care of business right there? Please send me that when you're done, please.
I will.
Okay. Any other suggestions?
Bring more water.
And make sure that you pee when you have the opportunity right away?
Yes, because we have tried to stop as soon as we got outside of the place, and we stopped at, what was it, Desert Springs? And there was literally...
Desert Center, I think.
Desert Center, sorry. And there was literally a cafe that was no longer, and a convenience store that was boarded up, and a dog sitting out front. And it looked...
There's a few people there.
Yeah, it looked like there was almost like someone trying to pee on a building.
They looked like they were trying to achieve the same goal as us and were just as confused
Yes.
as to why there was nobody there. But reasonably why it makes sense nobody was there.
Yeah.
What other suggestions do you have? I mean, I think there's a few glaring, obviously, ones. If you don't cover them, then I'll chime in.
How about you take the, not this wheel, but the podcast wheel.
Sounds good. So one suggestion is make sure that you have gas. Those no gas for hundreds of miles suggestions are not there for your enjoyment. They mean that they speak the truth. Make sure that you have gas. Make sure that you have snacks just in case, because again, it's going to be a while. Definitely make sure that you have water and sunscreen and proper attire to cover your skin so that you don't get burned. Any thoughts?
We did bring sunscreen, and we did have a little bit of water. We should have brought more donuts from Donut Friend.
We have the whole thing in the trunk.
I'm pretty sure those are probably a giant mess now.
I told you, and you were like, no, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Hey, P.S. Don't run over these tire shards on the road.
Okay.
So you didn't heed my advice that your donuts were going to be a mess?
Well, I knew that, but I just thought maybe on the off chance that they'd survive, I could eat them.
In case you were wondering, Tony bought 8 donuts at Donut Friend for himself and took 2 bites out of all of them and ate the entirety of 2 other ones?
One other one.
1. So he
ate about 3 donuts.
ate 1 entire donut of the 8 and then 2 bites out of the rest for what he estimates a total of 3 donuts, even though there's still partial of 7 of them left.
Totally worth it.
They were very delicious. So we have left the Joshua Tree. We are on our way to Phoenix, and we're making some good time. Do you have any other Joshua Tree comments you would like to make?
Kate Nash took some pictures there a few months ago, and that's pretty cool.
Did you stand in the same spots?
I don't know, but I licked a few of the trees.
That explains why you're driving so erratically.
Who are you?
Exactly. So, back to baseball. In the previous 2 parts, we've explored many different topics.
Actually, not many topics. Probably one topic, baseball.
Okay, well, if that's how you want to go, sure. And now we're going to explore theoretical changes to the game that we wish could happen, or potentially could happen in the future, or we just some crazy outlandish idea that we have. Would you like to start, or should I start?
How about you start, because I don't have any ideas right now.
Okay, so the first discussion we had that got cut off during the last game of the season last year that we went to was regarding robots, but it actually stemmed from a conversation regarding how to, or no, not how to, but should baseball go to not video, but using electronic balls and strikes and instant replay for fair and foul balls, and taking technology to the advantage. Yes, you have a ways, but just watch out for the truck in case he gets over. So, regarding using technology in baseball, what ideas do you have?
Positive ones.
Any ideas? This is theoretical, remember. Currently we use instant replay. Would you like to expand using instant replay?
No.
Why not?
Flaws are nice. Flaws are real life.
The human element is everything.
Correct. Now, if it was robots playing, then yes, expand.
Don't jump into the robots so fast. We're not there yet. Okay, so no instant replay. If we did have to, your arms are being tied and you need to bring instant replay in. What types of instant replay would you use?
Video.
Or let me clarify the question. What types of plays would you allow instant replay to be used on? Like outs at first base, home runs, foul balls?
All of the above. Probably not balls and strikes, but pretty much everything else. And I would say it would make sense to actually have umpires watching the game on TV with all the angles, and that way they can chime in right away when something happens and say, you got that call wrong, reverse it on the field right now.
So you're ultimately saying if we're going to make the leap to instant replay, you might as well replay everything.
Yes, and you might as well not put it in the hands of like challenging it. You should just have someone overseeing all of it right away, because then they can make that call right away, and you don't have to wait for a coach that 30 seconds to get them to call for it. You don't have to wait another 2 minutes for them to actually review it. It's said and done. No one gets hurt. It's stuck to exactly what the play was on the field.
So you trust that. Now this is going back to delaying the game. You trust that you would in theory set up some kind of system where the ump making the play call would be notified, whether it's some kind of something they wear or some kind of light that earpiece is a good example, and the call is made right away. But then, I mean, you have 30 seconds between plays, so you have to try to turn that around in 30 seconds. Is that possible for so many plays?
I would say so. I mean, for the most part, you probably even have more because, I mean, balls and strikes are only so much. So, I mean, really, how many plays per game do you have? Maybe, let's say, 40 per side, so 80 plays that you have to judge.
That was some quick estimation.
Yeah, I was mainly trying to do like out, safe, or hit, that kind of stuff, but not necessarily if a foul ball went foul. So you might have a little bit more. It might be closer to 100 or so.
Yeah, reasonably so. There's not that many close plays in a game that could be technically reviewable. I think most of them are pretty obvious.
Correct.
Even when we're idiots in the stand booing the umps, thinking because our team is getting the shaft or something.
And the one thing that might actually help them with instant replay would then be having like an RFID tag inside the core of the baseball, something really small, and then having areas on the field that are like GPS.
The boundary system.
Kind of thing. And that way it's automatic. It'd be like tennis, how they review it and can see on the replay if it hit the line or not.
There's no RFID in the ball, though?
No, it's not in the ball, but at least it's kind of like that system.
Didn't they try the RFID thing with soccer? How'd that go?
I don't know.
Because I remember they were touting it for like one World Cup, but I don't remember anything about it since.
I'd also think it'd be easy to do in hockey.
So, how do you think that could positively or negatively impact the game? Well, actually, go with that question.
Positive, speed it up. Negative, I think it would just be baseball purists getting kind of bent out of shape that it's eliminating the human element.
Does it undermine... Because it doesn't automatically eliminate, but does it undermine the credibility of the umpires?
I don't know that it undermines them because, like we said, for the majority of the game, they're calling the correct play. They're already being undermined with challenges. So why not? Why not take it out of a manager's hands and just put it in other umpires that are watching the game?
So why then have umpires?
You need someone on the field to facilitate that, to
break up the fights?
Not even that, but to vocalize it to both teams.
Okay, that makes sense. What about balls and strikes, though?
What about them?
Well, you're already bringing in technology to review those plays. Why not include balls and strikes?
You could, but then you would have to actually designate a hard strike zone, and at that point it's a little bit tougher because the strike zone is actually kind of designated by the size of the player. So it's going to be a little bit...
But they're able to move that around on like Fox tracks and stuff, right?
Somewhat, but for the most part that box basically stays the same. I think where they start to have a tougher time would be...
Do you think it's legitimately a static height for them on the Fox tracks? Or like you would think that they'd, for a guy like Aaron Judge and Jose Altuve, you can't legitimately have the strike zone in the same place for both those players, so it has to be adjustable.
That would be something to look at, but I think that it's just a template that's the same, just by watching games.
So wouldn't you think there would be a greater a pretty large margin of error between those kind of players? I mean, that it's not like there's it's not like every player is 5'11".
I don't think that they're really showing a lot of borderline calls, whether it's high or low. A lot of the borderline calls are inside, outside, missing the corner. So I think that could definitely help it if you have a monitor to say, yes, it was within basically the base, but at the high end or the low end, that would be subject to umpire review.
Interesting. Because I feel like there is a margin there would be a rather large margin of error, and I do feel like, at least from especially the games that I've seen recently that display Fox tracks on the side or StatCast or whatever network you're watching, that it's generally the corners, right? But I have seen enough low for sure, and the occasional high one that I guess I don't see all that many, all that much of a difference between inside and outside, is what I'm saying, versus high and low.
That makes sense. There might be a place coming up.
Is this the place, the 60 miles?
No.
Oh, well, I can go for a while. Maybe.
Jared is turning into a camel.
Yes. But if you want to stop, let's stop, and I can go.
It's up to you.
Let's just stop then.
Okay.
That way you can get gas and we can do that.
There will be a part 4.
There will be a part 4. And
really, it's all the same part, but
we're just going to cut everything and put it together, so no worries.
maybe
Cool.
I'll put a little intermission in between each one.
Next exit, you better find a way over.
A little king gizzard.
That's not what I thought you were going to say, but I'll roll with that. All right. We'll see you in 15 minutes.
Love you!
And we're back with the 4th installment of baseball. What would you change?
Before you even get into that, this is the first episode that crosses state lines.
This is very true. We crossed state lines prior to or just after at the third part, and now we are currently about 70 some odd miles outside of Phoenix, traveling through a very long, flat desert area with some nice mountains surrounding us. I don't know what mountains they are, but they're nice.
It's Harquahala Valley.
Harquahala Valley Road. Exit 81
Off of I-10.
in Arizona. So, back to the discussion of what would you change, or what radical changes would be fun to try out, or theoretical changes that would help improve the game. I'll start so that you have a few minutes to think about just any radical change. It can be anything from offensive, defensive, managerial, front office, whatever, okay? We sort of covered one of my ideas before, but that was similar to just taking away all specialization and having no bullpen whatsoever. And it's legitimately, you have a 25-man roster, and every player, like, I'm not saying that you have to make it mandatory that every player has to be able to play every position, but there's just no more specialization anymore. And the idea is to get, now it's 25 guys on your team that can pitch, 25 guys on your team that can hit, sort of like what we covered before. And even have the manager play. What do you think about that?
So no more specialized managers, they have to be players?
Exactly. Player coaches like an slap shot.
Reggie Dunlap would be pretty happy about that.
I agree.
I don't think you'd need 25 players then. That'd be too excessive.
Okay, so what do you cut it down to then?
12.
12. Interesting. Why 12?
That way you have a few extra pitchers if you need them, or if a guy gets hurt, you have an extra
But
player.
pitchers would be specialization.
It would kind of be specialization, but they would basically be like, if your pitcher gets hurt, or if he gets really shelled in the first 2 or 3 innings, well, you can throw in one of your guys, but that eats up 1/3 of your bench players.
I say maybe 15.
No, too many still. That's
Nah,
6.
not for me. 15's good.
But that's 6 extra players. How many times do you go through?
You have 13 guys in a bullpen.
I know, but how many times do you go through 6 extra players in a game? I would challenge you to look that up. Usually it's 1 or 2 defensive subs and probably 4 or 5 pitchers in a semi-standard, a little bit more heavy pitching game. So that right there is 6 or 7 guys.
Yeah, I would still go with 15, just because.
I'm going to challenge your league and do it 12.
Yeah, my league's better.
It's like, name that song in however many notes. I just undercut you. So are you going to try to go under me?
Nope.
All right.
Prove it.
All right.
Name that tune. Okay. Another idea that I had was something we also sort of glossed over that I asked as a question. What if you took away a ball, or maybe
I thought you meant just took away the ball. I'm like,
no.
Work.
Take away a ball and maybe even take away a strike.
Okay.
I don't know. They shortened at bats.
Shorten at bats, but potentially more boring at bats because it's going to be a lot more strikeouts or a lot more walks.
Everybody has to throw knuckleballs.
Underhand or overhand?
Your choice.
Professional T-ball.
No, that'd be interesting.
The fences couldn't be nearly as far back.
That's true.
I have one to do with location. Either in that city or geographical area, you basically get to cut out the states and cut out what your market is, and it divides the entire continental U.S. And
So, everybody in the U.S. has to pick a side, and
then if you are born in that area or live in that area for however many years, you can play for that team.
so you're automatically, the team owns your rights.
Yes. And that way there is actually a tie to that local area. It is really your team. It's not.
Would you think that'd be unfair, though, because of the fact that,
Oh, it could be.
for instance, the southern teams, just having more regular, yearly warm weather?
California would dominate.
What about the Dominicans?
But that's also where, since you have 4 California teams, they could really split the markets, and it'd be terrible.
That would be intense.
Well, that was going to be my other point, is maybe you do the same thing, but do it in an international stage, so you actually add other countries into Major
That was
League
going to be
Baseball.
my question. One of my next questions is, why not have a team in Puerto Rico and have a team in the Dominican or Haiti or Mexico?
I don't know that you can do Haiti just because of how unsafe and poor the community is. No one's going to support that because they don't
What
have
about
money.
Cuba?
Cuba could if they get a little bit more liberated.
Give it a few years.
Maybe. It sounded like they picked their successor and he's not too far off.
What if we had a team in the Netherlands?
Bert Blyleven could go coach it.
What about just European teams? Because obviously when you stick to your same half of the hemisphere, or same quarter of the earth, above the equator and hemisphere wise, but now you're getting into the other side of the earth. What do you think about that?
Well, I just think it'd be awesome because then it technically would be the World Series.
Do you think it's dumb that they call it the World Series and everybody in NBA and whatever is all world champions?
Yeah, I think that's kind of dumb, especially because soccer is actually quite global, and they have huge tournaments, and they don't even call it the global tournament or world champions. I guess World Cup, but that
but that's different. That's not a league. That's
that's kind of almost Olympic type of deal,
and it is a legitimate world thing.
Yep. But I mean, like, those leagues that come together for, like, League One in France, the English Premier League, all those leagues, they still, like, work together and have their own championship, but it's not, they don't say we're the world champs. So,
or they do and we just don't know about it.
No, they don't.
Okay, they don't. So what other countries do you have teams in then?
Japan probably would. That'd be a really interesting one.
Korea?
I don't think that they're quite fully there. It wouldn't just be Korea. I think you'd have to put that with a lot of other Asian countries. They'd probably be the epicenter for where you put the stadium, but you could filter other.
So it's like a U.S. versus the world competition, but just breaking out specific countries to allow them representation.
Because it'd be almost like if you did it Little League.
Well, that's what the AL, NL, European East, European West. You could do it that way.
Well, basically Little League baseball, if you copy their format.
I don't even know what that is.
Basically where the U.S. plays each other and then the rest of the world.
Oh, gotcha. No, I know what you're saying now. Okay. I didn't understand what you were talking about at first. So
plus then it breaks up the U.S. into smaller regions, which I think they would need to do.
Yeah. I wonder, could you pull up some, like, AAA teams maybe?
Ooh, some relegation systems, kind of.
Oh, like, yeah. We got to talk about that too. Let's go back to my question though. Could you pull up some AAA teams though?
Well, how many teams do you want in this league now?
I don't know. We're already adding like 10 countries worth, so Canada for sure. We would add Canada, and maybe what did you say? Probably Mexico. 3 sections.
2.
Okay, so then what would you say for Mexico? Is that big enough for 2, you think?
Probably 1.
What about any of the South American countries?
Not really. They'd probably funnel into the non-Dominican or non-Cuban.
Okay.
Probably Cuba and Dominican Republic each get 1, and then you have the rest of Latin America that is not Mexico, or you could even possibly filter it into Mexico. I think Mexico is just the weakest of those 3 if it was Dominican, Cuba, and Mexico.
Until the Mexicans come over and just completely obliterate our teams and
take our jobs.
We're not Trump. Okay, let's move on from that.
No, we're in Arizona. We have to.
This is not
talk about it like this.
This is not a political discussion. We're too far away from that in sports, because sports and politics don't mix.
Don't they?
Of course not. You know that. So what about Australia or Africa? Russia, Western Asia, Europe.
I think for some of those it'd be kind of interesting to almost have them be wild cards where like it's free agents, or maybe that free agent pool comes together to form basically like what Russia did in the Olympics, where it's not technically a country, but they all bond together.
Yeah, but don't you think that would be... I don't know. I guess I would want it to be a situation where you're giving each continent its own representation, and then just like in Major League Baseball right now, it's, you know, whoever is the best out of that comes out of it, and so arrange it in some way out of that. But then oh shoot, I forgot what I was...
And it's almost like you're rewarding and giving a playoff spot to a team that just doesn't deserve it. It'd be like if you somehow rearranged it and put all the bottom teams in the same division.
There's so many teams right now that don't deserve going to the playoffs.
They still at least beat really good caliber teams, whereas
I would think you could argue against that.
The disparity between
the United States versus America, or Africa, I mean, of course.
Yeah. So, like, if you're trying to reward them one, it'd be like you're just giving them a free pass. Same with Australia.
Yeah, but if you promote the game good enough, I would think that you would get one or two worthy teams, at least out of those, until you could build it up.
Or you get basically one that is bankrupt anyways, and not only bankrupt, but sending really crappy representation. Because, like, we talked to those Australians yesterday, they said baseball isn't thriving at all. It's lower than basketball, and basketball is much lower than, like, cricket and rugby and Australian football.
Did they say Australian rules football?
Yep. I asked them about football, and they said it was
soccer.
No, soccer was different than.
Oh, I thought they said soccer. So
soccer was higher, but it's still, like, below even rugby and Australian rules football.
Okay, so that would be a fun change.
Or what you could do is make those basically your minor league teams. Sure.
That makes sense. Start them off like that, and then eventually... Well, I was going to say, that was what I forgot to say. So, you promote the program as well and as hard as you can in all those different areas that don't have good representation right now or quality representation right now, and then you start them off in sort of a minor league role and let them sort of build themselves up. No?
Yes, but I don't think you'd have to... Don't put firm timelines on it, because if it's not there, don't force them into the league, because it would be bad.
Well, right. But the more you can promote the program in new areas, you never know. And maybe it's one of those things where it becomes like you said with the Little League World Series, it becomes more of an all-star team for that continent or whatever to have their representation in the World Series playoffs kind of thing.
I think that makes sense.
So that's a good idea. What about the relegation system like we talked about?
I'd be all for that. It'd be really fun, but then you couldn't really have affiliation between minor leagues and major leagues, because as soon as you can transfer players from one to the other, that really messes up with who gets relegated and who gets promoted.
I think there would still be able to be that, however, just because the sheer volume of teams.
Not really, though, because if you're affiliated and you have, let's say you're close to the bottom spot and your other team that's affiliated with you is close to a top spot, you could flip-flop, so why wouldn't you just switch?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Like, we'll say for this example, let's see, there's Major League Baseball, AAA, AA, Single A, some instructional leagues, and then you get like down to St. Paul Saints level and things like that. So you take all those teams and just sort of break them up into, or rank them as is, and then you take the top, I don't know how many divisions or how many levels there are in soccer. What are there, 4, 5? We'll say 5 for the time being. I feel like it's 5 or 6 or something like that, but I feel like there's plenty of teams to have a top tier sort of relegation system, and then there's still plenty of teams below that to have affiliations.
I get that, but your minor league systems filter up to your majors. So,
but those, if you have your, like, it's like FBS and FCS, like your FBS, they compete all within themselves, and then they're part of the relegation, but the bottom tier teams are not.
So, okay, so that's exactly how it works in, like, soccer and stuff. It is still separated, but what I'm saying is that usually it's like the bottom 3 teams get relegated, top 3 teams get promoted.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
But that's what the relegation.
I understand.
Promotion.
That's not what I'm saying. So what I'm getting at is you have 30 teams in Major League Baseball, 30 teams in AAA baseball, 30 teams
keep it in two divisions like that. Yep.
No, I'm going to go. You have 30, 30, 30, 30, 30. And then there's still a ton of baseball teams in the United States that are below that level. So if you have 5 tiers, that's 150 teams of 30 teams, right? That's obviously way more than what the soccer has per tier, right? But then below that, you have all these other teams, right? We got to do something with them. So now they're doing the same thing, but in a Division 2 version of the kind of thing. So now you have a Division 1 with 5 tiers that all relegate within each other, and a Division 2. But the Division 2 will never be promoted up to Division 1.
Why?
Because I said so.
But then that's not relegation. Or
that's not what I'm talking about. Hey, you asked for an idea. That's what I'm giving you. You asked the question.
So you want to keep it the way things are? But
No. The 5 tiers. The 5 tiers are not. I don't think you're following. I'll have to draw it out for you in a picture later. Because what?
I'm lost.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'll draw it out for you in a picture later.
And you would like me to say what now?
I don't know. You have this very, I'm lost, but you're wrong look on your face. And so I'm trying to figure it out.
We were talking about relegation and promotion.
Yeah.
Because we were going through that, and then you basically said, I'm not talking about that. So I'm confused.
I know.
Went down that road.
I'm pretty sure I know what you're saying. Let's put it that way. But what the idea that I'm saying, we have a system where teams can be relegated and promoted, and it involves, and what it says, if I'm overseeing divisions. Yes, if I'm overseeing, there's no Central League America, or there's no East, West, Central divisions anymore, right? So you just have Tier 1A, Tier 1B, Tier 1C, Tier 1D, Tier 1E of 100 teams, we'll say. And all those, in Tier 1D, you can be promoted up to 1C, to 1B, to 1A. You can be relegated from 1A all the way down, right? Then you have a Tier 2 of Tier 2A, B, C, D. But those teams can never be advanced up to the first tier, or
I get that.
They just are in their own relegated between A, B, C, and D.
So really what you want to do is just add 70 more teams to the league.
Yes, because why not? That's the whole idea, we're coming up with crazy ideas.
Yes, but you were talking about AAA before, so that's why I didn't know where you were getting.
Yes, and that's why I said I didn't think you understand. So maybe I came up with a better example that time.
So that makes more sense. But what are we doing with those AAA teams?
You're basically I'm overseeing baseball. Okay, yeah. I'm the commissioner of USA Baseball starting today. I oversee all baseball teams across the country. Okay, and then what we do is we gather up all of the teams that want to participate in this. Even let's go ridiculously low, down to like the stupid little independent leagues that we saw at the park downtown Minneapolis.
So I'm getting all that. So really what you're saying is we're going to break the affiliations that are there right now. We're going to re-rank them, and whatever is at the top 100, those are no longer affiliated between each other, but they can have new affiliates.
Right, because most likely what'll happen is those the top 100, you're going to have some of those teams like Rochester is going to be in the top 100 or whatever. So they're not going to be able to, because they're going to be in Division 1D, they're not going to be able to be affiliated with the Twins anymore because they could go up and down,
So
right?
How do you deal with player transfers? Can you actually then trade them between 1A and 1B or 1A and 1C? Can you make straight up trades like that? How does that work? Because you're no longer affiliated between those programs, so you can't just promote. Can you trade?
I would say
it would really suck to be a really good player that is then in the C League.
let's go this way. So
Also, the stats would be very skewed because maybe he's raking on C League pitching.
Well, let me explain how I would break it out first, and then that might help you some more. So I oversee the whole program. I list out all of the teams, and we just we'll say, because we're starting from like new this year, we'll say, okay, well, these are the Major League Baseball teams that are going to be Division 1A, and then the AAA teams are going to be Division 1B, 1C, 1D down the line, right? And then we cut it off at Division 1D, and then the next teams fill in Division 2A, 2B, 2C down the line until we fill out just all the teams, okay? And then you can say, okay, well, the Division 1A, each of those teams, maybe there's a way that you can arrange it so that they have, there's a Division 1 team, a Division 2 team, a Division 3, how many ever divisions you have, that has a reasonably close, like Beloit, Wisconsin, right? They're relatively close to Minneapolis, so they could be affiliated with the Twins. So you could have a Division 4 team player promoted up to the Division 3, promoted up to Division 2, promoted up to Division 1, and sent back down kind of thing. And then you could literally just trade with anybody. You can trade within your division 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, but you can only promote from your...
From 1 and 2?
You can only promote from your affiliated teams.
So you can make trades between A and C or B and D, something like that.
Correct.
Okay.
Does that make more sense?
Yeah.
Any thoughts regarding that? How would you do it differently? We're getting nuts here. Go crazy.
I think that would be good, but that's excessive relegation. Especially,
I'm just doing it because I want to involve all baseball teams.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea of, rather than having a 1, 2, 3, and 4 divisions, just having your A, B, C, and D, and having them basically be in there and saying we're no longer going to have affiliated minor league programs, but we're going to kind of have these youth programs,
like the soccer team.
Yeah. And that way there would still have to be money caps and all of that stuff, and maybe that's where you say try to stick within a geography. That way it's more fair, or at least it's like developing from an internal pool.
So you're giving them like a 150-mile radius to develop their youth from.
Yep.
For their program specifically.
And any foreign players would then be equally distributed between the leagues via like a draft system or a posting system if they want to.
Interesting.
Because otherwise, if you have all of those other ones that you're being able to switch from, it's going to make trading and call-ups really weird, especially because you could have a player stuck in 1C that would be much more deserving of getting more of a promotion compared to a player in 3D who then gets promoted all the way up to, because they're the affiliate, basically the AA standard of what we have now, getting all the way up to a 1A team because that's their farm system.
Sure.
So that's all.
Did you come up with any other ideas? What about like if if you required every batter has to switch sides every at bat? So like you could have a primarily right-handed hitter come up for the first at bat, but then the next at bat he's got to hit left-handed, and then the third at bat he can hit right-handed, and then that you go and change pitchers, and then it really messes with things.
No.
Come on, play along.
No.
You suck. What other crazy things could we do?
Oh, I know. How about we go back to the Roman Olympic Games, make them play nude?
It's bad enough.
It would be balls and strikes.
Herp. I would feel like there's going to be some support issues.
There would be, but all those warm weather climates that really like to brag, all of a sudden they're not so appealing because they get really sweaty and really, it's not going to be fun to run in, especially those slapping legs and stuff. Likewise, cold weather probably wouldn't be good either because it wouldn't be very flattering for the players. Although, if you really...
I was in the pool.
If you're working out, it's not like you're really showing much to brag about, typically.
That's true. But big quads make it look bigger, or smaller though, too, so...
Yeah. I know, I have that problem.
I was in the pool! I had an idea, too, that just came up while you were mentioning that.
Mandatory PED league.
Okay, let's go that way. So,
They're cheaper than robots.
So, it's pretty obvious that leagues are moving towards offensive production because that tends to be more exciting.
Yep.
So, what's the harm in going just full on open to performance-enhancing drugs?
Or you could have the opposite effect. No surgery leagues.
So some guy blows out his arm, needs Tommy John, but you just say, well, sorry, you can't fix it?
Yeah, you can't fix it. So either you keep playing, or I think there would be a lot more cautious approaches for obviously throwing, but also some other things. You might not see guys sliding as much. It would
definitely not in the nude.
Yeah, it'd basically take it back to the olden days of the 1800s when it was more gentlemanly.
Sliding in the nude would be horrible.
Especially with an erection, it'd almost be like an anchor. It'd be like...
I don't know why you have erections when you play baseball, because I never do, and...
Maybe that triple that he legged out was really exciting, and then he tried to book it for home, stealing it. I don't know.
You got some weird fetishes, man. So, the one topic we haven't covered yet...
Wait, are you saying that you don't have an erection when you get to third base?
Exactly.
Hey-o!
Yep.
Oh. How do you get to third base then?
I don't, usually. So, the one topic we haven't covered yet is technology is getting pretty advanced, and we have this I can't think of the word, but we have this sort of a movement towards automation, okay, and making artificial intelligence.
Before we get to artificial intelligence,
We've already put it off for 4 parts, which is about 2 hours now.
But what about just the technology aspect? Not so much in balls and strikes and stuff, but for entertainment?
Aluminum bats.
No, for entertainment, you put more body cams on guys. You have more exclusive, maybe some cameras in the dugouts, just more cameras in general, and mic up all the guys so that they have hot mics and you can hear what they're saying.
That would have made the game the other day interesting.
Yeah, especially that slide at third when people...
Yeah. Was he intentional in that, or do you think?
I think he was intentionally trying to break up the play, just like anyone would be, but that's where baseball has to crack down. That's a whole nother offshoot of the whole.
He slid. I think he slid very hard.
He slid very hard.
Was it late?
Slide tackle out with his legs.
Was it? Okay, from the angle that I was at, I couldn't tell.
With his arm. I just saw the replay on Instagram, and he came in with his arm right to the bag, so it was perfectly well within his line, but he was trying to take him out.
Oh, okay. Was it a bad hop by the third baseman to try to get over it, too? I mean, he's not used to having that kind of takeout slide.
Kinda. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, he was going for where the ball was and didn't really recognize that the runner was doing that, so...
Did they announce if he got hurt after the game, by the way?
I didn't hear.
Because he stayed in the game.
Yeah.
And since we had no reference point there, that was the Dodger game in which the Arizona Diamondbacks player on a close play at third, was stealing, and the pitcher had a pretty good pickoff move towards third base, got the ball there clearly in time, and the Diamondbacks runner slid pretty hard and hit the third baseman pretty good, and he was down on the ground for a little while, but got back up and continued to play. Now back to the artificial intelligence. Yes, let's go to artificial intelligence since we covered technology already.
Artificial intelligence, we wouldn't have to go full robots. Let's start with replacing parts on players.
So you need Tommy John surgery, but they amputate and give you a bionic arm.
Yeah, or at least maybe not full amputation, but maybe like a joint that is more bionic. So it's still like a real arm, but it has almost like a Wolverine type of deal where it's metal in there and it has like some pneumatic.
I think adamantium's an unfair advantage, don't you? That's like the performance-enhancing drugs of bionic arms.
It kind of would be, but it's not illegal in Major League Baseball right now, so...
I guess if there's no rule against it, go for it, right?
That's kind of what the whole PED issue arose out of, was that it wasn't technically illegal in baseball.
So this goes towards a question that I've had for you the last probably week. What if the pitcher throws his arm off? What if the pitcher throws his arm off and the ball crosses the plate across the strike zone? Is it still a strike, even if the arm's hanging out of the strike zone? And then what if the batter hits the ball?
I would have to look at the Bach rules because I don't know when the pitcher has to release the ball, and if the ball stays in his hand and the pitcher makes more movements than like foot off the rubber and makes more steps towards the plate, it would technically be a balk because he hasn't let go of the ball yet.
Interesting. What if the arm crosses the plate and hits the batter with the ball in hand? Is that a hit or a strike? Hit by pitch or a strike, I mean.
I would guess that would be a dead ball right away.
Dead ball.
Yes.
Interesting. Why is it a dead ball?
Because there would be some foreign substance on the ball.
What if
Especially if the player isn't from the U.S., am I right?
Well, we went there. What if... okay, so what if it's a bionic... What if they intentionally amputate so that they have bionic legs, which makes them jump higher?
Or even just, like, take off the arm and then literally put a cannon in there so he just...
Right, exactly.
That'd be pretty sweet. Agua Fria. It's cold water right there.
Does the bionic limb have to represent an arm, or can it be like a cannon or specifically spring legs to help you run faster and jump higher?
If I was making the rules, I'd make it so it had to look and act and function like the limb that it is replacing.
So you couldn't have an arm replace a leg?
No.
You couldn't.
But maybe you could have 3 legs.
Could you put a hand at the end of a leg because legs are stronger and might be able to throw better?
Only if then you replace the foot and hand on the other.
So you cut off a foot and a hand and just swap places.
You at least have to have 2 hands and 2 feet.
Gotcha. Okay.
Not necessarily. At least 1, I guess, because Jim Abbott.
That's true. Good point. He did pretty well, didn't he?
Yeah.
So then...
it would have to be at least 2 and 2 unless you have...
Unless your name is Jim Abbott?
No, unless you have less than 4 limbs.
Already?
Yep. Because then I'm saying, like, if you want to...
you can't be born with, like your arm is deformed or whatever because of birth problems or whatever. So you can't just automatically put a bionic arm on there and then call it good.
Right. Or you couldn't just replace it with a leg.
Gotcha.
So, but then if you have it added on, that's where you at least need 2 and 2, because then you could have 3 legs and 2 arms, but you couldn't have 3 legs and 1 arm.
I see what you're saying. Gotcha. Okay, so then what if the player decides, well, I've already cut off both my arms and both my legs so that I could get bionic arms and legs, and then they just decide, you know what, I'm just going to go full on, replace the torso and the head and everything too, and now they're just a full robot.
That'd be pretty sweet.
But now you're playing a full robot against humans.
Yeah.
Is there an advantage or disadvantage to that? Technology right now, to me, seems like it's going to be a disadvantage because the AI is not quite there yet.
It would be until it becomes better, but then that's when, if there's no rules written about it, you would have some of those... like at some of the venues that have cell phone dampeners where you can't get any reception, maybe you start to have some type of weird thing that messes with frequencies and tries to kill the robot or mess it up.
Ooh, that was a topic we never even covered.
Yeah. Hacking.
It's hacking the robots on the field.
And even because that biohacker just died, the one who was doing some kind of non-FDA AIDS research type of stuff, we almost kind of went biohacking by putting bionic limbs on and then said that they became full robot, and then we hacked them to disrupt their functions.
This is going down a pretty deep rabbit hole.
But then it would be really crazy if that artificial intelligence found ways to basically throw at batters in order to kill them if they were human. Because
where's the first place you would put a robot, a humanoid-like robot, on the field?
Catcher.
Why catcher?
Even though they get a lot of touches, there's less responsibility that they have to do. You don't have to worry about the running. You don't have to worry about the range. You just have to get one that catches the ball. And I would think that programming it to throw to a base would be really easy because it's literally one of 3 places.
Interesting. But he still has to hit.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at Jason Castro.
You're calling Jason Castro a robot?
The way he hits, and not in a pleasant way.
Okay. What's the next place?
Sorry, that first place would not have been catcher. First place would be something else. Second place would be catcher. First place would be a manager, because no one needs.
No, fielding player.
Oh, okay.
What is the position that could benefit the most from having a robot?
Pitcher. Because
why is that?
You could really get some weird mechanics inside of the firing mechanism that could put some movement on the ball that humans just could not do.
You'd almost have to make sure that there's fingerprint-like hands, so that there's no like cutting of the ball or tacky substances or whatever.
Yes, but you would still have the ability, if it has multiple points within it, to get really weird spins.
That's a good point.
Because you could get a Euro ball. Remember those?
Gyro ball?
Yeah.
He's still playing, right?
I don't think so.
I think he is.
Is he?
Wasn't it you, Darvish, that did that?
No.
Oh.
Daisuke Matsuzaka?
Dice K, that's right. Dice not so K.
He K'd a few guys.
Not with the gyro ball.
No, because they found out that really wasn't really a thing.
What was it of?
I had read an article, I'd have to find that again, but they basically said that it was a weird thing to do with translation and just some overhype.
So basically, a super hype knuckleball?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Curveball, more like it.
It was a curveball?
Yeah.
It looked like more of a knuckleball to me.
Are you sure?
Nope.
Okay.
Got any other ideas? We didn't really cover robots like we did the last time, but because that was a pretty in-depth conversation.
Correct. We have 8 minutes until we arrive at our hotel.
Okay, well, I guess then we will end it there. Please let us know in the comments, like, share, subscribe, smash that like button. There's no like button in podcasts, but that's why I'm saying it.
Because give us a 5-star rating on iTunes.
If for no other reason, we talk ridiculous baseball ideas.
Yes, and we give very positive encouragement. Isn't that right, Keith? You're doing such a good job. Dude, we're so proud of you. And Paul? Wow, Paul.
You did it, dude.
Dude, I can't believe that. Next time you see us, we're going to put you on the show. Have any other shout-outs, Jared, to your listeners, your favorites?
You're driving.
Wow.
Anyway, don't forget to donate to our Patreon. We don't have one, so you did good. Thanks for donating.
Thank you.
We'll see you on the flip side.
We'll talk to you tomorrow. Well, we don't know if it's actually going to be released tomorrow, but we'll talk to you. We'll record one tomorrow for you and be thinking of you the entire time.
Just pretend when you listen to it that it's actually tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good talking. See you later, man.